Thank you, everybody. Here we are for this webinar on sustainable jewelry. Just a few technical information. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar. So if you have any question, please use the menu on your left and drop a question, and we'll be glad to answer you. And will be a registration recording of the whole webinar at the end, sent to all the participants, including the PowerPoint slides and all the related information. So here we are today. Our special guest is Fabiana Montesanti, product coordinator of LBF, a major company in Brazil producing and selling jewels. So Fabiana, so glad to have you here with us.
So glad to be here, Paolo. Thank you so much.
Thank you, wonderful. And the next webinar is going to be in a couple of days on the 26th of February at 4 p.m. And it's going to be about sustainability in the sport industry. So I look forward to have you all there to that event, to that webinar. So just a few words about us. Our experience started from the sea over 30 years ago with my involvement in the Dolphin Safe Tuna project of the Earth Island Institute, a major NGO in the US. This project managed to, by means of the Dolphin Safe certification, to reduce dolphin mortality in the critical area of the Eastern Tropical Pacific. And so I realized that certifications could be a very important tool to achieve tangible conservation results. And in 2008, we launched Friend of the Sea, initially focused on certification of products from sustainable fisheries and aquaculture, and later expanding into other products that respect the marine habitat. 10 years later, we launched Friend of the Earth, a main certification for products on sustainable agriculture and farming. And then we also expanded into other sectors, as I will explain. In 2022, we opened our foundation to support conservation projects in over 40 countries globally. And a year later, we opened our Sustainable Friends concept store right in the center of Milan. Currently, there's over 1,500 products in more than 100 countries, which have Friend of the Sea or Friend of the Earth certified or certification on their packaging, and have obtained the certification. These are the projects that the foundation is supporting worldwide. So basically, WSO, the World Sustainability Organization, is the only platform which can provide the two consumer-friendly labels and logos to certify basically the whole range of food products and non-food products and services worldwide, based on a solid 30 years experience, completely independent from the industry that we are certifying, and verified by the national accreditation bodies. As I mentioned, more specifically about Friend of the Earth, which is also hosting today's webinar, this started as a certification for products on sustainable agriculture and farming, and then expanded to award with the Friend of the Earth logo other products and services which respect the environment in general. And so, for example, we have become very strong also in the certification of fashion brands. And we organized also every year during the days of the Milan Fashion Week, an event, a fashion event, showcasing brands from 4 continents. And it was thus natural to develop also standards for sustainable jewelry. And I will go more in detail on this in my presentation. So let's get started with the webinar on sustainable jewelry, environmental and social impacts, initiatives, and certifications. As we start, let me share with you a curiosity. The word jewel comes from the Latin word iocale, meaning playful, plaything. This to me nicely defines the purpose of jewels, definitely providing the joy of playing for those wearing and for those admiring them. Jewelry has been an integral part of human culture and history, serving various purposes from adornment to a symbol of status. As studying the history of jewelry timeline reveals, the evolution of jewelry over time reflects changes in technology, fashion, and societal norms. The jewelry market keeps on growing, and it is expected to grow nearly 5% over the years, from the current $400 billion value to almost $600 billion in 10 years from now. Rings and necklaces are the top sellers with over 50% of the market, followed by bracelets and earrings. And jewels for women lead the market, of course, representing 2/3 approximately of the total sales. According to Deep Market Insight, the global sustainable jewelry market size was valued at 23,800 million in 2024 and is projected to grow to 25,900 million in 2025 and to reach 39,200 million by 2030. Expanding its growth over the years by 9.1% in the forecast period. This represents, however, still less than 1% of the total market size, even though the estimations vary depending on the study's assessment methodology and what you actually mean by sustainable jewels. So let's look now at the major trends which are driving the growth of sustainable jewels production. Consumer preference is shifting towards ethically sourced and environmentally responsible jewelry, with lab-grown diamonds, recycled metals, and upcycled gemstones gaining traction. Mid-range sustainable jewelry dominates, offering an ideal balance between affordability and premium quality, particularly in North America and Europe. North America leads the global demand, with the US accounting for the majority of consumption due to strong ethical consumerism and disposable income. Asia Pacific is the fastest growing region, led by India and China, driven by rising urban middle class income and increasing awareness of sustainable alternatives. Technological adoption in e-commerce, augmented reality, virtual reality, try-on tools, and blockchain provenance tracking is reshaping consumer trust and engagement with sustainable jewelry brands. Also, last but not least, government initiatives and certifications are enhancing market credibility and encouraging ethical sourcing. There are, however, market restraints, such as high production costs. This can limit the profit margins and pose barriers for smaller players seeking to compete with established brands in mid-range and luxury segments. Awareness of sustainable jewelry practices remains limited in regions like Africa and parts of Latin America. Targeted consumer education and marketing campaigns are required to expand adoption beyond mature markets. The market opportunities are, however, clear. Increasing adoption of lab-grown diamonds and recycled precious metals provides a significant growth opportunity. These materials reduce environmental impact, lower carbon footprint, and cater to consumers' demand for ethical alternatives. Online retail represents also an important backup to the expansion of the sustainable jewelry market, which relies on it heavily, around 40%. Digital adoption enables brands to reach global audiences efficiently, particularly in emerging countries in Latin America and Asia Pacific. In terms of products and materials, rings dominate the sustainable jewelry market, accounting for 32% of 2024 sales. primarily driven by engagement and wedding rings made from lab-grown diamonds. Sustainable watches and multifunctional jewelry are emerging niche, particularly in premium segments. Lab-grown diamonds, in terms of materials, hold the largest market share, 28%, driven by their ethical appeal and comparable quality to mined diamonds. Recycled gold and silver are increasingly popular among eco-conscious buyers, while upcycled gemstones and bio-based alternatives are gaining traction in niche, fashion-focused markets. North America holds 35% of the market of sustainable jewels, with the US leading in lab-grown diamond adoption and recycled metal usage. Europe accounts for 30% of the market, with Germany, the UK, and France as leading consumers. Asia Pacific, as we said, is the fastest growing region, led by India and China. Rising middle-class income, increasing awareness of lab-grown diamonds, and digital adoption fuel demand. Brazil and Mexico are emerging markets in Latin America, with growing interest in eco-friendly jewelry and outbound luxury purchases. United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are driving high-income demand for luxury sustainable jewels in the Middle East and Africa, while South Africa and Kenya focus on export-driven production of recycled metals and lab-grown gemstones. Here are some of the key players in the sustainable jewelry arena in terms of making news about their initiatives, not necessarily based on actual overall lower impact. For example, in March 2025, Tiffany expanded its lab-grown diamond collection and recycled gold setting. In February 2025, Pandora launched an online sustainable jewelry line. And in January 2025, the Bears Group announced the expansion of its recycled metal sourcing program. What about the actual environmental impacts of the conventional jewelry industry? The impacts are generated in the different phases of production, as you can see, and mining impacts on ecosystems, land use, and biodiversity. It can also potentially generate pollutions in terms of water and air emissions. Processing is energy intensive in smelting and refining phase, using energy, water, and generating emissions. During distribution and at the end of life, jewelry can generate further pollution, as any other product. Not all the materials used in the jewels production have the same impact. Generally speaking, diamonds and extraction of precious stones has a much higher impact in terms of emission, water usage, and also waste, followed by gold, while other metals such as steel have much lower impact. When comparing the environmental impacts of conventional natural diamonds extracted from mines with the lab-grown diamonds, the difference is striking, even though not all studies agree, and also the mining industry is rapidly improving its environmental performance. Modern mining operations can recycle up to 84% of the water used and can reclaim 99% of mining waste. These companies also focus on wildlife protection and ecosystem rehabilitation, funding efforts to cover areas 4 times the size of the land used in diamond recovery. Of course, we are not talking here about all the companies, but some of them. Lab-grown diamonds, on the other hand, eliminate the need for mining, but they still come with environmental concerns. Their production consumes a significant amount of energy, even though, as you can see from this study, the comparison is striking. And however, lab-grown diamonds produce much less mineral waste than traditional mining. Many lab-grown diamond producers now focus on reducing environmental impact by using renewable energy sources such as hydropower and participating in carbon offset programs. Ethical concerns are crucial when deciding between natural and lab-grown diamonds. For natural diamonds, conflict diamonds remain a factor. These diamonds mined in war zones often fund armed conflicts. The Kimberley process addresses this by certifying that diamonds are conflict-free. But concerns over labor practices and human rights abuses still persist in some mining areas. Companies are working to improve transparency and ensure that mining operations follow ethical standards. As far as recycled gold is concerned, newly mined gold is not automatically better or worse than a recycled gold source, since recycled gold can mean so many different things. In fact, the most commonly accepted definition of recycled gold is gold that has been refined more than once, and this can still have several environmental impacts as shown in these simplified graphics. As you can see, in this example, the recycled gold is being transported and processed twice, both carbon emissions and heavy activities, resulting in extra carbon emissions, yet benefiting from the positive association with the word recycled. All the recycled gold definitions in the jewelry industry, however, are very different from the commonly understood definition of the word recycled, meaning something that is diverted from waste stream and thereby reduces the demand for newly produced material. So very little gold is headed for the waste stream, and demand has not decreased for gold. In fact, it's increased substantially. And if we looked at the really recycled gold, also known as reclaimed or post-consumer gold, it is derived from existing products such as old jewelry, electronic components, dental work, industrial materials. So instead of extracting new ore from the ground, this gold is recovered through refining process that purify it back to its elemental form without altering its intrinsic properties. Because no new mining is required, the environmental savings are substantial. The US Geological Survey estimates that recycling gold uses only 5 to 10% of the energy required for primary extraction. Water usage drops nearly to zero, and there's no landscape destruction or toxic runoff. Jewels from other recycled metals, as also those of the company that we will hear today and know more in depth, LBF, are definitely a very good, more sustainable option than those sourced directly from mines. In general, they emit much less CO2 equivalent, up to 80% less, use 70% less energy, save natural habitats, and over 90% less waste to landfills. Because of the increasing interest and awareness of consumers for sustainable jewels, as we have seen, and in order to prevent greenwashing and regulate claims, several sector certifications have been introduced. Here listed in order of current relevance and number of certified members. As you can see, for example, Responsible Jewelry Council, TSM, these are some of the major certification of this kind. And many of them have been introduced by the industry itself and are therefore not completely free of risk of conflict of interest. Some of them are material specific, as you can see, focused, for example, on gold, as well as copper and aluminum, for example, ASI, as you can see, number 4 and number 6 and number 8. Finally, some of them, like fair trade and fair mine, are mainly focused on the social and ethical accountability and less on the environmental one. This is why the World Sustainability Organization, our organization, felt the need to propose a certification which would be international in scope, using a logo applied also to other sectors and in fashion, and providing a reward to those companies and products in jewelry which have undertaken the different paths to sustainability in jewels making. So, for example, those coming from sustainable mining. And as you can see, we have partial or total equivalence with some of the existing certifications. Those coming from laboratories, or those recycled or upcycled. And again, here we have a certain equivalence with some of the existing certifications for recycled materials. For sustainable mining, we also developed standards on our own, Friend of the Earth standards for sustainable mining for those companies whose origin hasn't yet obtained a certification. So we can, with the Friend of the Earth certification, cover all these different paths. And mind you, some companies or even some products might be a mixture of these. Some might have, might be rings, for example, made of recycled material, metal or gold, and or silver, and combined with precious stones or diamonds from laboratory. So this allows those companies and those products which are following the different paths to have a unified message to consumers, the Friend of the Earth certification. So I will just show you very shortly the various areas covered by the requirements of the Friend of the Earth Sustainable Jewels certification standards. And of course, as I explained, these cover both the management system as well as the possible mining origin, or the recycled origin, or the laboratory origin. There are requirements also for the manufacturing and processing part, and as well as social accountability requirements and requirements for packaging and end of life. You can have them all summed up here in these slides with more detailed regarding the actual requirement for each section of the standard. So that's all on my side, and I will just jump very shortly to open up the polls as I do normally, so that you have time during also the next presentation eventually, or after, during the question and answer, to answer these polls. So let me launch the polls. The first poll is regarding, the question is, which origin or origins, you can choose more than one, do you think is or are the lowest impact? So sustainable mining, recycled, upcycled, lab grown, or even the conventional, why not? Okay, I will open the second poll. What impacts of jewels you perceive are as more relevant? Land use, water footprint, emission, the air and water, waste generated, energy consumption, social impact, transportation, packaging. And the third poll, the last poll, have you ever seen a certification on a jewel, a sustainability certification on a jewel? We are curious about this. Have you seen it rarely, maybe frequently, or you never saw it? Thank you very much. Now I will pass the microphone to Fabiana. Thank you very much for your patience and waiting for me and for the polls.
So, good morning. Good afternoon, actually, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today, I would like to share with you guys about how environmental sustainability in jewelry sector is evolving from isolated initiatives to a structured operational systems. So today, instead of presenting one single brand, I will share about the HMS Group. We are two complementary brands who operate together to address sustainability at different scales of the jewelry industry, focusing on responsible production, circular design, traceability, and conscious consumption. The group itself was founded more than 10 years ago by a mother and daughter with a clear purpose to strengthen female entrepreneurship and create real economic opportunities for women within the jewelry section. This origin story still shapes how sustainability is approached across our organization today. LBF operates on 3 different pillars: our business model, our social impact initiatives, and our environmental structure. We are a women-led, women-founded group with a B2B wholesale network supporting female entrepreneurs in starting their own jewelry business. We have demand-driven production planning with small stocks as to not have too much backstock, integrated repair and life cycle extension services, as well as an international supply chain. For our social impact initiatives, we have a female entrepreneurship model with a majority female workforce and leadership in our company. We partner with Brazilian artisan communities and work with income generation through structured resale programs for women and communities in Brazil. With that, we also have education on conscious consumption and sustainable practices. On our environmental structure pillar, we're also very keen on responsible sourcing and traceability systems. All of our in-house scrap is recycled, and we work towards circular design and the reworking of unsold pieces. We also have recyclable packaging that is reusable and compostable, some of them. Jewelry may be small in size, but its impact is structurally complex. Like Paolo was saying, jewelry tends to have a cradle to grave structure. So the materials are extracted from mountains, natural resources, much water is polluted. In Brazil, we have a big deforestation problem due to the extraction of raw materials. Then during the purification and manufacturing, a lot of water tends to be contaminated through the distillation, liquidation, melting, and molding and polishing processes. After that, we go to sales and consumers, where there's a lot of transportation, not just from manufacturers to point of sale, but because we have a resale model, our pieces also travel from reseller to final customer. The usage of jewelry depends very much on its user and the brand. So at LBF, we go straight to reusing, recycling, and repeating, but most fashion jewelry brands do not offer end-of-life care, so they end up being disposed in landfills, incarcerated, or left to degrade. Jewelry within the global sustainability agenda. So actually, the Responsible Jewelry Council has their own wheel of how jewelry relates to the Sustainable Development Goals set by the UN because of the general requirements. So responsible supply chains, human rights, gender equality, labor rights, working conditions, health, safety, and environmental concerns, as well as responsible mining and pollution contamination, are all very prevalent in the jewelry sector. I have outlined with stars all the global goals initiatives that LBF currently works in our business models. So it would be combating poverty, good health and well-being, gender equality, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable consumption and production, climate change, and partnership with the goals. Closing the loop, jewelry, metal, and recycling process. As Paolo mentioned, metals and gemstones can be recycled, as they often are in fine jewelry, but fashion jewelry, tends to be a gap. At LBF, we collect used jewelry at all our showrooms. We then sort the metal by metal type and plating type, as we are a fashion jewelry brand and tend to work with brass pieces. The pieces are then melted, purified, refined, repurified, and repurposed into new jewelry. At LBF, we also use this loop with production waste. So all of our third-party manufacturers have ISO certificates of recycled metal, such as brass and steel recycled sourced metal. And as Paolo was saying, the conscious consumer is no longer niche. Sustainability is no longer a niche position, it is a market driver. Global consumer behavior is shifting across three structural dimensions: risk awareness, so climate volatility, supply chain instability, and regulatory pressure. Value reassessment. Customers are increasingly prioritizing durability, transparency, and long-term use over impulse consumption, as well as trust and verification. Demand for traceability, measuring claims, and third-party validation is rising, such as the importance of certifications across the sector. As you guys can see in this graphic, taken from the WGSN Trend platform, by 2028, the teal line represents climate impact drivers and innovations. So it will be one of the top drivers for 2028 will be climate impacted products, as well as the yellow line, restoring trust, that need for a certification. With every dollar spent on adaptation, decarbonization, and resilience, companies are seeing between $2 to $19 in avoided losses. At LBF, we use design as a structural sustainability tool. So a lot of our process is based on research, analysis, and validation before we even reach creation. We research market trends and consumer behavior as to properly step in the right direction. We use platforms that do very deep consumer research. Then we move on to analysis of our backstock, materials that we would like to use, and our business goals. With that, we validate those research through field work with our sales team as to avoid any waste, as well as trends that they believe we would like to invest in. Then we finally move on to the creation of pieces and families, having in mind all of this research and analysis that we have made. We also have a service loop here at LBF with 3 pillars: responsible production and ethical sourcing, circular design and lifestyle extension, and our impact and accountability framework. So that includes sourcing materials from trusted suppliers that have a wide recyclable material selection. We also recycle in-house scrap and rework and repair unwanted or returned items. That way, we extend the product lifestyle cycle through our traceability systems as well. We use an in-house ERP. It's called Proteus. It's kind of like SAP. And that way we can ensure traceability of all our pieces. We also work with education for our consumers and recyclable packaging systems. That way we can continue to extend the product lifestyle cycle. At LBF, we also worry a lot about controlled plating and waste reduction. So whereas most fashion jewelry brands control how much material is deposited in the galvanic bath, at LBF, we do a controlled plating by micrometers, where we measure how much material is plated onto the piece. Therefore, there's less material waste, and we have a more controlled galvanic process. For Steel Ship, our second brand that is made out of steel, we also have a controlled plating with zero toxic waste. It is called Steel Fix Shine, and the gold material is deposited physically onto the piece. So that way there is zero toxic waste and zero water contamination as well. Sorry about that. Impact beyond the product, packaging and display systems as structural impact. We also believe at LBF that the way we package our products is an extension of our brand manifesto. We use reusable and modular systems that display on hooks in our interchangeable retail structures. They are designed for long-term use and reconfiguration and reduce the need for seasonal replacement. These packaging systems also work for consumer use. So if your fashion jewelry is stored individually, it has a much longer life cycle, which is why we introduced these types of packaging. We also have recyclable and biodegradable materials. So our plastic materials are all made from biodegradable plant-based plastics that they are also reusable and we try to use plant-based materials whenever it's structurally viable. For our packaging, we tend to use craft paper with limited dye as well to not contaminate water sources and optimize the sizing with lightweight design for packaging and shipping. Impact beyond the product, we also do social collaborations. Recently, we did a collaboration with Renasci, which is a association of artisans from the Cariri region in the north of Brazil. This was actually one of the collections that went on to be presented in Milan, like Paolo had mentioned. And it is much more than just a partnership. It is about product integration, structured market access, and cultural and economic preservation. We are incorporating these handcrafted lace to contemporary jewelry designs and showing that the adaptation of artisanal techniques can meet commercial durability and quality standards. We are also including this artisan produced components into our formal distribution network, and not in a one-off collection. This leads to support for regional craftsmanship within scalable business models, and also bringing to light these regional efforts into our active value chain. It's not just about symbolic collaboration, but systemic inclusion. But why two brands? Why LBF and Steel Ship? LBF is a brass gold-plated jewelry brand with 12 annual collections, strong mood-based structured with high product depth and commercial rotation. It is an accessible premium and has artisan collaborations. Steel Ship is our contemporary steel jewelry brand. It is designed for Gen Z consumers with minimal, bold, and identity-driven aesthetic. It is our alternative material positioning, as steel, as Paulo has mentioned, tends to be more ecologically sustainable. We follow digital-first brand language, and it is a more trend-based brand, as we can test trends for the younger consumer in a smaller scale brand. Both brands have centralized product development, demand-driven production, traceability and compliance system, circularity and reworking processes, and are women-led. What does this lead to? Cross-learning between segments and a broader ecosystem impact. Here I'll talk a little bit about our ecosystem impact. So the activity that LBF and the HMS group are currently doing is product design and development, responsible metal sourcing, responsible galvanic and surface treatment, product and assembly, packaging systems, wholesale distribution, repair and reworking systems, a female reseller network, and artisan partnerships. What pressure does this cause on our ecosystem? There is environmental pressure, such as the thought of resource use, energy consumption, chemical management, scrap metal, packaging waste, and product lifestyle. Market pressure, such as production volume, inventory turnover, trend acceleration, price sensitivity, logistics dependency, and demand volatility. There is also, as we have mentioned, social pressure. So we believe in female income generation, entrepreneurial inclusion, artisan livelihood support, workforce qualification, local economic circulation, income vulnerability, and community impact. And what does that mean for our ecosystem now and in the future? We believe this pressure could lead to better supply chain management across the whole sector, waste management system, transport networks, and material recovery flows across industry, as well as training networks and certifications to further impulse our mission of female micro entrepreneurs. Frameworks and resources for sustainable practice. At LBF, we also have guides for our customers and our collaborators. So we have an information guide that talks all about plating, lab-grown jewels, and all of our sustainable practices. We have our LBF and the SDGs guidebook, which talks about all the developmental global goals that LBF actively works on and explains them to our customer base and collaborators. And we most recently have an entrepreneur guide where we help women structure their new business and sell fashion jewelry on their own. So this is our responsible life cycle model here at LBF. And like I said before, sustainability is ingrained into our design process. So before we even start designing, we have number one, which is plan. We reassess the needs regularly, such as environmental needs, market needs, and trend needs. We then move on to design based on those needs and produce with third parties. We then shift through the most effective method, analyzing cost as well as environmental footprint. We make sure to catalog everything always in our ERP Protos software to ensure traceability. When we sell, we always verify product outcomes with our commercial team as well as our customer base. For repair, we always have end-of-life extension. We have a 1-year guarantee and complimentary, and then we have end-of-life repair. Just like any other jewelry store, our fashion jewelry brand offers repair services for the rest of the life cycle. So maybe in 5 years your necklace breaks, you can come to LBF and we have repair services. And those are the ones that we cannot repair, we always recycle and repurpose those materials. So then we can plan accordingly for our next designs. And that's about it. I would like to thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Fabienne. It was great to learn about your company and the great things you're doing to reduce your impact. So I have some questions myself to you, but I see that there are some questions for you already. So before we then go and look at the polls, that's going to be our last step. Let me turn to you, forward to you some of the questions. So there's one question: are all your products recycled or have specific sustainability features? Or is it only a product line? If so, what are you planning for the future? All sustainable?
So currently, all our manufacturers have certifications on recycled metal, even from brass to steel. Across both lines, our manufacturers do work with recycled production material. All scraps that come from our service and repair center, we also recycle. So, and we also have, as the question says, specific sustainability lines. While recycling is part of all our product line, post-recycled material, we also have specific social initiative product lines, like the one that I showed in the presentation.
Okay, so just to be clear, because I know that you recently have had some of your products certified Friend of the Earth. Which part does it represent?
You mean what percentage?
Yeah, if it's a percentage, or if it's all of them, or if it's one specific line.
All of our manufacturers work with recycled production waste. So I would say about 90% of our materials come from recycled material waste.
Okay, and
then post-consumer, we recycle in-house the scraps.
Okay, that's great. It's great to hear. So, but in terms of materials, you have different materials, or is it all mainly steel? Do you also have precious stones?
So at LBF, we work with lab-grown infusion stones because we believe that the mining is very bad for the environment, and lab-grown stones, either natural or synthetic lab-grown stones, are just as beautiful when put in a beautiful design composition, and they can reduce environmental impact greatly. There is no need, especially in Brazil, where we suffer a lot of the effects of mining. such in water, local communities, and deforestation, LBF tends to work with lab-grown stones, natural and synthetic.
Oh, that's very interesting. Just one comment. I went through your online website, right, where you can do purchase online, right?
Mhm.
That's your one, and I think this positiveness that you are describing could be even more highlighted. Let's say. I mean, sometimes it's good also to be modest about what one is doing, right? But the fact that I'm asking you this is because it wasn't, at least for me, from, I went through the website quite extensively, not so evident. So, you have really space, to increase in terms of that part of the communication. I'm sure you do it on other sides. So I'm sorry, I'm being just constructively
Of course,
critics.
I agree too, Paolo. But here at LBF, we also believe that being sustainable and having sustainable initiatives are beyond a marketing standpoint. They are how we run our business model. So for right now, we are working on making sure everything is aligned, our certification,
That's great.
because what we would like to do is actual change in the sector and not just be a sustainable brand. Because I know, as you probably know, there are a lot of brands that have sustainability as their forefront, but don't actually have that many practices. And we realize that when we do everything right by the book, we tend to be more sustainable than some brands, you know?
Yeah, sure. That's a very wise approach. So there's another question. It's about the prices. Do your certified or sustainable products have a higher price or not? Well, I think maybe as you are telling us that they all have some sustainability credentials, maybe you cannot really compare, right? Or
Yeah,
what
I
would be
can
your
tell a
answer?
little bit about the Threads of the Future, which was this collection that I shared with you that we made with the lace. Those products do tend to have a little bit of a higher price point just because they are handmade, fully handmade by artisans and our local workshop. And to value, the labor that went behind this artisan labor, the price point is a little bit higher, but all of our pieces have recycled materials, so those have normal price points.
Okay. And so what is consumer feedback when you make sustainability claims? Do you have some experience about this?
Usually, like you said, because it's not very much on our website yet, because we have been redesigning the website the past couple of months, they do tend to be surprised because they think a lot of people associate recycled, upcycled jewelry with crafts. They don't think of a finished product or refined product. And when you present to them a refined product and you tell them, oh, this has 0 water waste in its plating process, which is the case for steel ship, they are very surprised because it's not common market knowledge yet.
Okay,
But
that's
they're
good.
very happy, of course. I think it's always great. It's always a bonus when you know that the brand that you love loves the world that we live in.
Yeah, that's right. Great. So that's clear. Then another question is, are all of the recycled metals from jewelry, or are metals recovered from other products? That's interesting. So like you have a part of it is steel, right?
Yes, but currently they are all production recycling and used jewelry recycling. We don't work currently with any other type of metals because it's harder to source. So for jewelry, there is a biohazard as that it is very close to the skin. So we have to be very careful of where the recycled material is sourced from, as so there is no contamination.
That's interesting. That's interesting to know. Thank you. So there's a question for me. Why should a company apply for Friend of the Earth certification instead of other existing certifications for jewels? Okay, so there are, from our point of view, there are various reasons. I would start with one which I think is probably the most important one, also in terms of in ethical terms, also for consumers' knowledge. So I think it's important for a certification to be completely independent from the industry that it assesses and certifies potentially. And we can make this claim from the Friend of the Earth certification, basically for any of the sectors where we work. We are not involved, let's say, we are not interested in the sector itself. There's no representative of the companies in our board or companies in those sectors. And instead, some of the existing major certifications in jewels, like the Responsible Jewels Council, have been created themselves by companies or representatives of companies that that come from the sector. So, for example, the Responsible Jewels Council was created by 14 organizations, which included also Cartier, Rio de Tinto, De Beers, which are some of the major jewels producers, and TSM was created by the Mining Association of Canada. So even though I think one has to applaud the initiatives of the sector to make a sincere effort to reduce its impact, it's clear in the eyes of consumers that a certification that is created by the same industry that is going to be assessed has, let's say, a higher risk of potential conflicts of interest, even though this might then not occur, but and they are also well supervised, etc. However, we can make the claim of complete independence. Secondly, I think is a very practical reason, and is the fact that Friend of the Earth can is the only one out there which can potentially certify and award all the different major paths to sustainability in the jewels sector. Responsible mining, as I've shown in one of the slides, as well as lab-grown, lab-made products, and recycled or upcycled, and so on. Instead, for example, the two major ones, RJC and TSM, are focused on certifying the mining practices, which is good, but it, of course, limits their effectiveness, because nowadays there's also lab-grown, which, to my knowledge, nobody, or at least no major certification, apart from, the generic like ISO 14001 and so on, can certify and recognize its validity in terms of lowering their impact. And yes, there are some certifications for recycling, like RCS and GRS. However, they are focused only on recycling. They would not be able to certify mining. So I think there's a need in the sector for a certification which can cover all these paths, which sometimes are found in one single jewel, like probably also those that Fabiana's company is producing. Finally, one third consideration is more like a marketing consideration. I think that a claim being friend of the earth, sustainable jewels is more clear and effective for consumers compared to other acronyms, as are often certifications out there. And so that can be more effective, more interesting also for a company to be friend of the earth. And then there are more, but I would limit to these major three differences.
Paolo, can I just add one difference? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Someone that just went through this process, I think something that is very nice and very cool about Friend of the Earth is social impact initiatives are also measured in the certification. And the jewelry sector is one with a lot of difficult working conditions in all of its scales. And to have that certified is also very important.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for your feedback. So we have no more questions. I think, let me double check again. Yeah, no more questions. So let me just jump to the polls so then we can close the webinar. Let me see the results. Okay, so there's, I will publish them so you can see them. And of course, not everybody voted, but in terms of recycling, which the question of the poll was, which origins do you think is our lowest impact? So recycling seems to be the most voted one, followed by sustainable mining, upcycled, and lab grown. So that means that you're going in the right direction, Fabiana.
Yes.
So you do also the others, but so what impacts of jewels you perceive as most relevant? And mostly was social impact. Of course, we all have these images of mining and, which of course one cannot generalize, but we've seen these on TV and on the media, and I think it remains in our brains, the impact on the local communities, on forced labor and all this. So followed by water emissions and footprint and transportation. So that's it on my side, and I thank you again, Fabian, for this wonderful and very insight presentation. And I look forward to have you again on other subjects relevant to your industry. And I thank everybody for the great patience and interest and for participating to the webinar. Thank you again. Yeah, Fabian, you want to add anything?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for having LBF and Steelship here today to present our case study. And we are very thankful for the partnership that we have with Friends of the Earth.
Thank you so much. Let's stay in touch.
Help our planet with this first step. Follow Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth across our social media. Like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your follow and subscription helps us spread the sustainability message to everyone. Let's build a better world together as sustainable friends.